Hey, it's Richard with Matthews Wealth Management. We're back again talking about how to minimize mortgage interest. We got this idea from a viewer that sent in a recommendation of exactly what they wanted to see. So there's that old adage of pay extra payments on your mortgage and you'll minimize the interest. So let's follow that, look at exactly what that entails and what the outcome could be. So in this example, I'm going to use a hypothetical kind of run-of-the-mill type mortgage scenario. So let's say that we've got, right now the median house value across the U.S. is $300,000. We're going to use something that's a little bit more local here in the upstate of South Carolina and say that we're going to have a mortgage value of $250,000. So $250K, that's about average here in the upstate if you want to look at that, and also kind of reflective of the client base that we work with here. Typically, if you look at like an interest on a mortgage, the long-term rate is somewhere around 7%. Right now we're seeing a 15-year, I think, is at 2.7% and a 30 years at 3%. So we're gonna just go ahead and say something in the middle because this is typically what we've seen of a house that's maybe 5 to 10 years old. We'll say we've got an interest rate here of 4.5. So if you can't tell, what we're going to do is run a scenario through a financial calculator and figure out all these details of how it works. But just to figure out what the payment is, we need a term. Let's say that the term of this mortgage is going to be 30 years. So we'll plug into the financial calculator to find out what is payment. So again, if you haven't followed the financial calculator series that we did, you can download these free apps and follow along with it. But in this example, we're going to put in the $250,000 as our present value. And then we're going to hit 0 for our future value because we're going to pay off our mortgage. 4.5 is our interest rate. 30 is our term, so we hit 30 in, and then we have our payment. So payment comes out to $15,347.89. Most of us don't pay our mortgage annually, so let's divide that by 12. So now we have $1,278.99. So that'll be fun. So we've got our monthly payment here. So when we talk about just what is a mortgage, the basic of a mortgage piece of this, a lot of people will assume that the 4.5% is an interest payment on the total value of the mortgage of $250,000. If that's the case, that's going to be roughly, I think, $11,000 is what it comes out to of interest in this first year. So not much of your payments actually going towards that principal. So if you were to assume that just $11,000 total was the cost of this loan, you're very, very mistaken. So this works actually kind of similar to a revolving credit. You're not actually going to necessarily increase your loan value, but you are paying an ongoing interest rate on the remaining principal. So once we get to the end of this, we'll see kind of what that looks like. So if we're going to say total payments over the 30 years and then compare that back to our original value of the mortgage at $250,000, back to the calculator, we'll take that, well, I've still got the $1,278.99. Let's multiply that by 12. We're back to our annual payment of $15,347. So let's go ahead and extrapolate those payments over the next 30 years, so 30 times. And we have the total payment or cost on this mortgage is $460,436.57. So 460 versus 250. So the Latin root for mortgage is death. This kind of interest kills you. This is why a lot of people say you want a large down payment, and that the concept of minimizing mortgage interest applies when we see what the actual cost is. That's $210,000 of interest is almost double what your actual cost of the mortgage, or the house in this case, would be. So in our question that we got from a viewer, it was about what happens if I double my payment or make extra payments. So we're going to do just that. We're going to take this $1,278.99, We're going to double that and have everything else be the same and see, first of all, what happens to our total cost, and also, most importantly, what changes on the term, because if we're paying it off quicker, we should not have to pay as many payments. So we'll look at that here on the other side of the board. Let's set up the example for our financial calculator. We're going to do the same value, $250,000. Then we have our interest rate, which is going to be 4.50 again. Payment, we know our payment. We're going to do the original payment times 2. So let me grab the calculator. We've got 1278.99. So our new payment is going to be $2,557.98, or $30,695.76. Okay, so that's our new payment. So now let's actually solve for our term, because it's not going to be 30 years of payments here. So if I take that $30,695.76, I'm going to hit change sign, and that's going to go into our payment. Let me go ahead and re-enter $250,000, present value, 0 future, 4.5 interest, and then I hit N, and N will give me the term. How long is it going to be to pay down this $250,000? And that comes out to 11.00 years. So we have more than halved the time frame of how long we have to pay this. So had this come out to 15 years, obviously we'd end up with the same number, but since it's 11, there's definitely some savings here. So let's go back and we'll take our $30,695.76 and let's multiply that by 11 years. And now we have a total cost of $337,653.36. So if we take the difference, $464.36.57, subtract that out, we have saved $122,783.21, or almost 50% of our original value here. So that's huge. I mean, if you can afford to make a double payment, or if you can maybe even pay a higher down payment up front to lower the amount that's being borrowed, the cost of the interest comes down substantially. And really what that has to do with is the front loading of interest in your mortgage. The first few years you're paying almost all of it towards interest as opposed to principal. So by loading up on these payments, you really start knocking off that principal quicker, thus saving you all of this excess cost that would go to the bank. So banks and financial institutions, they make a killing on mortgages, and yes, the pun is in the Latin root, but just by adding more to pay down, especially up front in a mortgage, you can really save some real dollars that down the road you continue your $30,000 back into some savings, or you do a mixture of savings and paying down debt, and that's really the best way to optimize saving your interest and then having some growth on your savings. So come back next time if you have any kind of questions about how this can play into your specific situation. Feel free to reach out, but we'll see you down the road. Thanks.